We're talking tonight about two stories. One of them centers around a witch's Sabbath and the journey to a witch's Sabbath. Obviously, that's all fire, burning, and so I, tried to create a certain mood-setting type scene with the fireplace roaring behind me, so that you could better relate to what the story's all about. Okay, so there you go. You get a better look at my fireplace now. Okay, and the flame that's going in there. Okay, so there's a lot of information in this week's typed lesson about these stories. We're going to be talking about imagery and symbols and how they interrelate and how the use of imagery as a kind of symbol. You'll find lots of information in the printed lesson, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that now. What I am going to do is tell you a little bit about two stories by Nathaniel Hawthorne that we're reading this week. One of them is Young Goodman Brown, and so let's talk about that first. It is a wonderful story. I just love the story, but you have to put yourself into a serious frame of mind. You have to be looking for meanings beneath what's actually going on in the story. Okay, that all has to be part of what you're doing. So think about delving deeply as you read. And don't tell me it's written in Old English, because it's not. The fact that they say ye instead of you doesn't make it Old English. It's modern English, so don't let that throw you, okay? Okay, so in the story, there are a ton of symbols and there are a ton of images. First of all, we meet Goodman Brown. Goodman, okay? Symbolism in his name. His wife is Faith. Symbolism in her name. Faith, to some degree, is the center of Goodman Brown's religious faith. Okay? So think about her in that way. When the story starts, Goodman Brown is just heading off into the dark forest at sunset. Now, a dark forest has always been something of a symbol of evil. Okay? And so Faith, before Goodman Brown leaves, says, "Goodman, this one night above all others, please stay here with me." Well, now, why does Faith say this one night above all others? Faith has pink ribbons in her hair, and in the lesson this week I spent a good deal of time explaining the significance of these pink ribbons in her hair, too. Okay? Anyway, she says that. Why? Well, we usually think of pink as innocence. Again, you'll see in the lesson how I explain that a little more. But Faith isn't so darn innocent. She knows something is going to happen. That's why she says, "This one night above all others, stay here with me." Goodman heads out into the forest. He's a short way in, and almost immediately he meets a character in there whom we pretty quickly get to realize is a spirit of evil. In fact, we'll get to know he is the devil. Okay? And right away, this character tells Goodman Brown, "You're late. When I passed Old North full 15 minutes ago, the clock was already striking 6. So we know it's 6:15. They were supposed to meet at 6. This guy passed Old North Church, which is 15 or 20 miles away from Salem, 15 minutes earlier. Now, the story's set in 1692, before the days of planes and helicopters and such. The only way he could have done that is because he's a spirit, and so he can travel, through spiritual methods, okay? So we know right away he's a spiritual character. Goodman says, "Okay, I've met you, now I want to go home." This guy, and Goodman says, "Nobody in my family ever did anything like this before." And this guy, who is the devil, says, I know your father well, I know your grandfather well, I was with them on some of the terrible things they did." Goodman shocked. But remember, we are dealing with the devil, the world's greatest liar, the master of deception, the one who lies to all of us every single day of our lives to convince us to do evil. That's what he's doing to Goodman Brown right now. So Goodman travels on with him a little bit, and then they hear somebody coming, so Goodman hides, and who is it that's coming but Goodman's catechism teacher, who immediately recognizes the devil. That's pretty shocking to Goodman Brown. Now imagine, if the person who taught you your religion admitted to being on a first name basis with the devil, okay? She travels on. She says she's going to this witch's Sabbath. She travels on. Goodman comes out again, goes a little further with the devil. Then hears some horses coming and some chattering, so he hides again. Who's on the horses but his pastor and the deacon from his church, who are talking about going to a witch's Sabbath. Goodman hears this, okay? So it's, pretty awful stuff for him. So he's still upset. He still wants to be strong. He sits down and says to the devil he's not going any further. The devil kind of goes off, and then he hears these voices and this rushing sound overhead, and the pink ribbons that were in Faith's hair come fluttering down, okay? Does this mean Faith has lost her innocence? Well, when you read my ideas online, you may see that Faith never really had all that much innocence in the first place, but Goodman is shattered by this. He knows whose pink ribbons they are. He heads out for the witch's Sabbath also. When he gets there, he's shocked to see that everybody in the town is there, even his mother and his father, and that hurts him a lot, And the good shrank not from the wicked. Why? Are we all wicked? Is that what the devil's trying to say? The devil says to Goodman and Faith, "Now are ye undeceived. Evil is the nature of mankind." Is evil the nature of mankind? I hope not. I hope not, okay? But as human beings, we all fail, so there's at least a grain of truth to that. Anyway, before Goodman and Faith swear themselves into the legion of evil people, the witches, all the people in the town at the witch's Sabbath, the devil worshippers, Goodman says, "Faith, Faith, look up to heaven and resist the evil one." Okay. Well, now don't give Goodman a pass because he does that. He's there. He's gone this far. We can't say he's not a bad man. He's not knowledgeable of evil because he goes there. Okay. But anyway, as the story progresses, Goodman just kind of rejects the rest of the world. He sees his wife and walks right past her. When he goes to church, all he hears is an anthem of sin rather than what the pastor's saying. But when Goodman died, okay, they tell us that in the funeral procession there was Faith, and Faith was followed by their children and their children's children. Okay, so Goodman may have been upset at Faith and turned off at Faith, but he's got kids. So obviously, sometimes awakening during the night, he shrank from the bosom of Faith, Hawthorne tells us, but not all the time. Okay, so Goodman, he's a double standard guy. Think about hypocrisy with this story. Okay, that's a lot of where Hawthorne's going, and that's some of the symbols. Think about the evil symbols. Read carefully the lesson that I put. The other story, The Minister's Black Veil, is a story about a young minister who, when he's going to give a sermon on secret sin, puts on a black veil. There's symbolism there, okay? You can figure out that symbolism pretty easily. You've all heard the term of, we all wear a veil, okay? Talks about secret sin. The kicker here is he never takes the veil off, okay? He never takes it off. Even when he's dying, he will not take it off because he tells us at the end of the story, when the lover shows his heart to his best beloved, and when mankind does not vainly shrink from the eye of his Creator, loathsomely treasuring up the secret of his sin, then deem me a monster for the veil beneath which I have lived and died. Okay, you figure out what he's saying there, okay? Now, when you write about this story, don't tell me that he wore this veil because he had an affair with the woman whose funeral he goes to. It's very clear that's not it. And it's also, there's a note on the bottom about he based this on a shooting he had heard about where a minister accidentally killed somebody and so put on a black veil. That only gave Hawthorne the idea of a minister with a black veil. That's not what this story's about. It only gave him the idea for this guy wearing the veil. Okay, so don't tell me he put it on because he killed somebody. That's not the truth. Okay, so don't tell me that or I'll know you didn't watch this. Okay, so the question then is, why do you think the minister put on the black veil? That's what you should email me an answer to. Okay, have a good week.